Hello, sisters. Welcome to the season 2 of the Rising Feminine Online Temple, which is a 7 days initiation for women to journey back to their true essence. My name is Janita D'Souza, your feminine lifestylist and also the keeper of this online temple, where I have gathered leading visionaries from around the world to join forces and initiate you in your authentic feminine. And a big part of my work as a feminine lifestylist is to invite women to indulge into everyday rituals so that you feel nurtured, nourished, and fulfilled in your busy, crazy, busy lifestyle. So, as part of this online temple, I invite you to create a sacred container, maybe light a candle, grab your journal, and give to yourself the time to receive the offerings of the teachers present in this online temple because each one of them have a very special message for you and for your initiation. Today, joining us is DeAnna, where she will be sharing her wisdom on womanhood as a spiritual journey. And I myself have been a student of DeAnna's teaching since my initiation into this divine feminine work around 10 years ago, I must say. And it's an absolute honor and pleasure to have her presence here in this space. And a lot of work around moon time that I share with women is totally inspired by DeAnna's teaching and the impact her teachings have had in my personal life and my reclamation of my sacred blood. So I'm really looking forward and welcoming DeAnna. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a joy to be here. And I am delighted to meet you in person after all these years and to see the fruits of your labor flourishing and expanding in the world. It really is a joy. So I am happy to be here and to share with all of you sisters.
Oh, this is so beautiful. I am over the moon. And let me read a little bit about DeAnna to you so that many of you who may or may not know her work can really see her sacred work and what she is all about. So she is fondly also known as the womb visionary. DeAnna is a motivational speaker, workshop leader, author, and a trailblazer who has defined the last missing pieces in women's psyche today, harnessing the spiritual forces hidden in both menstruation and menopause. DeAnna has been leading workshops and certifying facilitators nationally and internationally for over 30 years. She's also the author of Becoming Peers, Mentoring Girls into Womanhood, and A Diva's Guide to Getting Your Period, and also the founder of Red Tents in Every Neighborhood, global network, Red Moon School of Empowerment for Women and Girls, Womb Wisdom Tribe, and International Red Tent Day, which is celebrated globally on the 8th of November. So you can see the vastness of her sacred work on this planet, on this initiation journey for all of us. So welcome once again, DeAnna.
Thank you. I'm glad it's a joy to be here. Thank you.
So before we got into our conversation today, I just did a quick meditation and pulled out a goddess card so that I could tune into our energies and see what is present. And I wanted to share with you goddess Yemanya.
Yes.
Yeah. So she came out and she's about golden opportunities and she's a sea goddess. She's talking about important doors opening and opportunities coming your way, and I got really excited because for me it's a golden opportunity to speak with you. and I was curious if you can resonate to her presence in this moment right now for you.
Yes, so Yemanya I think in Portuguese she's called Yemanja, and she is the goddess of fluidity, of water. So more than the ocean, just the depth of waters. And waters are a representation of our emotions, our emotional life, our heart, and the fluidity of our journey. So it's perfect because the fluid journey of women is around our cycle. And our moon time is connected with Yemanya because she is talking about delving into the depths, kind of diving into the depths and feeling the gifts that we can drench from the depths in our moon time, from the depths of our dream time, from the depths of the waters of our heart and of our emotional life, bringing those into consciousness. And that's what, in some ways, we're going to do today.
Absolutely. You have done such amount of great work with the menstrual blood and the moon time and menopause and all of that. But I am really curious to know where it, I mean, I know because I've been following you, but I'm sure like the women watching us are really curious to know where did all of this begin for you? What was it in you, what that brought this initiation in you?
So I started my work close to 30 years ago, and it was a juncture in my life where everything was working well. I was certified coach for couples. I was expert in communication skills, and I had a private practice. I had a marriage that I really felt nurtured in, and I still am after 28 years, and things were going well. However, the junction was a moment of realizing that once a month my life is becoming paralyzed, that something stops, that my moon time, which I didn't call it that at the time, that my period is putting a halt on everything. I didn't have physical symptoms. I had a lot of emotional upheaval and irritability, and just I couldn't function because my emotions were raging, and most of it went on my poor partner, life partner, husband, because he said, "Why on me?" I said, "You're the closest one. You're here all the time." So I realized that there's something must be amiss, that we could not have been designed as a woman species to suffer that much every month. So I decided to go on a journey of exploration, and I started researching menstruation in indigenous cultures. And that's where I opened up to the depth of the gift of the blood. And that's where I started. And that for me was the door that opened. And from there on, the journey started. It was a journey of healing for myself first. And for a while, my practice with couples continued. And this was something that I kept for me until I realized that so many women grapple with it and suffer with it, and that there are really many, many experts of communication that can work with couples and can bring communication, but that no one was talking about menstruation. It was early 90s. So I realized that this is my calling and that I need to bring this out to other women in the world. And then the balance started shifting from my work with couples to my work in menstrual empowerment.
Wow, and it's such a taboo subject even until today. So I can only imagine the 1990s.
Yeah. Now there is a little bit of opening, a little bit of, we've done work for so many years that some doors have opened and some consciousness has opened. A lot of it is around products and companies that want to sell you stuff, but it's better than it was for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Growing up in India, I know what a big taboo this is. And even until today, a lot of women do not have provisions. I was reading some statistics that 60% of the women do not have provisions for sanitary hygiene in India. And this menstruation is considered as such a curse. Although I was grown up in a Christian family, it still impacted me because I couldn't go to the church and take my Holy Communion. And during menstruation, and my mom would say like, "Oh no, you just sit here and let me go to the altar and get the Holy Communion." So it made me feel really dirty. And while we were teenagers, and all the teenage boys would come to see the teenage girls in the church, so they would pinpoint like, "Oh, that girl must be on her period." So it was just not only feeling dirty, but also a feeling of shame came in, and it was very apparent. And even until only recently, I started speaking this to my husband, like I can now speak openly about it.
Yes. What's amazing to me is that your story resonates with mine and resonates with women's stories around the world. I teach in so many countries in America, Northern America, Latin America, Europe, Israel, where I'm from. And that feeling of shame and embarrassment and fear and lack of knowledge and aloneness is something that is mirrored in women's life and memories and experiences of their first blood in most, if not all, cultures. And it's heartbreaking, and we can change it because it doesn't have to be like that.
Exactly. And I started sharing this with my mother or whatever I was learning from you. And she was like, she was very fascinated. Thank goodness she didn't take it in an offended way. She was really fascinated and she was really proud of this new teachings. She took it in a really good way, in a positive way, rather than thinking that, oh my God, I didn't provide enough for my daughter and, things like that. But I'm so glad that I could, you know, bring this back to her, and then now we can talk, because no one used to talk about menstruation, even if you're bleeding. It's a silent subject.
Yes, yes. I am so happy to hear that you have shared with your mom and she was open to that. That is such a healing that happens between mothers and daughters. It's almost like a side effect benefit from this work that I'm hearing from women around the world, that as they begin to heal their relationship with their menstrual blood and their body and their memories of their first blood, they start talking with their moms, and many of them who were estranged from their moms or had no good connection or none at all are starting to connect as bleeding women, because
Yes.
that is another level that makes us sisters and equals in the fact that we all menstruated or still menstruating for many, many years.
Yeah, and that brings us to what you wanted to share about womanhood as spirituality. And um, this is such a broad subject, and this is also such a sacred subject that we women are feeling already inside our bellies, but we scared to claim it, that yes, our existence is a spiritual thing, whatever we are going through. So I would really like to hear from you about that.
So, we can approach our life and our existence on the visible level, what we see, and we can approach it on the symbolic level or the metaphorical level or the mythological level of all the richness that lays underneath what's visible. So here we are back to Yemaya, who is really inviting us to the depth. And the depth of our existence as women is that we're cyclical lunar being. We expand and contract with the moon. And when we look at the visible phenomena, we see that sometimes we are irritable or in pain, and sometimes we are outgoing, and sometimes we are really introverted and ingoing. And if we just look at it at that, there might be no sense made of it. Why is this happening? And why am I so changeable? And why am I so moody? And why am I so happy? And what's going on? And if we start looking at the fact that we as women are lunar being, that at our first blood we are reborn from child to woman, from girl to woman, to being one with the fluidity of the expansion and contraction of the moon, we can start realizing that our lives are spirals, that our lives are cycles, and that we are indeed hardwired in our psyche, in our soul, in our spirit, to be visiting all the facets of the circle every month. So that every month, if we start charting our cycle, we realize that those cycles repeat, and that every month we may have times when we are outgoing, when we are extroverted, when we seek company, when we want to be with other women, with other people, we want to party, we can go and do a board meeting or a job well done. And other times we just want to enter in our own cocoon and to rest, and rather than beating ourselves up for not having energy for the work that last week we had so much energy for, to realize that this is the tide had turned, that this is our time to move inward. This is our time to honor the call inside, the call to be connected with our spirit. So in indigenous cultures, menstruation is considered the time when the veil between the worlds is thinnest, when we are closest to the spirit world. So we can see the invitation that our body and our psyche give us when we are inward bound, to receive insight, to receive connection to spirit, to receive guidance for our questions, to release the month that we've just lived, and to receive inspiration for the next cycle. So all of this is underneath the surface. We can't be going to work and popping pills for our symptoms and have access to all of that. So it really is an invitation to live our lives as spirals, as cycles, as lunar beings that we are.
Yeah, and what would you say to women who are in the journey of menopause or coming closer to menopause, and when they have stopped bleeding? What about them?
So in indigenous cultures, again, the view of menopause is such that women in menopause are those who hold their blood and their magic within themselves. So what I discovered through research when I was approaching menopause, and now through my life beyond menopause, 3 or 4 years now beyond menopause, that indeed the connection to the spirit world, the thinness of the veil that is available to us when we bleed, when we are in menopause, when we stop bleeding, this is available all the time.
24/7.
Yes. So really, menopause is something to look forward to as opposed to dreading. Most women dread menopause.
Exactly.
It really is a time when you don't have to flow from your womb in order to be connected to spirit.
Mm.
So again, it needs consciousness and tuning in, but you can tune in and receive guidance and be in your full intuitive power any time of the month, 24/7. Anytime you connect or tune in, you don't have to wait for your blood. So that's the good news about menopause. And we still have the cyclicity because we continue to be lunar being till our last breath. We are still women, and as such, we expand and contract, but the cycles are much more subtle and are much more connected to the phases of the moon rather than to our body bleeding or flowing.
Yeah, what I often hear from women, especially us, busy women juggling with different roles and, doing 10 different things at the same time, a lot of women are hesitant to take that pause during
Yes.
their moon time. So what would you see? How can one integrate that in their life? Like, how can they feel that it's okay to do
Yes.
that? And it's a must.
It's a must. It's a must, but the key that I'd like to bring to women's consciousness is the permission to take time and the fact that you do rather than the quantity. So it's not about if you can't take the whole 3 days, 4 days of your blood as we used to do when we went to the red tents and we went to the moon lodges. If you can't take that, then don't take nothing. No, if you can't take 3 days, take an hour. Take an afternoon. If you're working in an environment where you can't take time off, you're employed, then take your lunchtime by yourself. Don't be around people. Don't let that rubbing against people aggravate your psyche when you need to be in. So when you are in the office and you need to work, by all means work, but be less, more contained, less communicative. Explain to people that you're feeling more inward today. If you don't feel necessarily open to wanting to share with anyone that you're on your moon time, but you could take your lunchtime in nature. Go eat by yourself for an hour. If you're at home with young children and there's no one to take care of them, get up 10 minutes before your family and light a candle and let yourself connect. Let yourself give a flavor to the day that is different than any other day because you're on your moon time. So I think of it as a homeopathic dose. It doesn't have to be a quantity of time. It has to be a tuning in, an intention, and however short or long time you can take is a gift. Give yourself that gift. It doesn't matter even if it's 10 minutes.
Yeah, I like when you say it's intentional, so it can be like literally 5 minutes during the day, just with the pure intention of
Yes.
honoring your body.
Exactly. Yes.
that brings me, when I read your blogs, I really like your style because you are like really direct and straightforward and very thought provoking in terms of questioning, your readers. I love that. And I love your researches about all these new products that are coming in the market, like the pills and all those Bluetooth devices, to track our menstruation. And the idea is for women to take the pills and not have it. And I
The
would,
mainstream.
yeah, so I would like to know your idea about what impact it is causing these women when they are actually running away from their menstruations, when they're blocking and stopping it through pills and etc.
The metaphor that I like to really bring here is to think about a world without rain. So if we were to think about the fact that it's inconvenient to be in the rain, and we were to start engaging scientists to see if they can stop the rain because it's just inconvenient to get wet when we want to go to the grocery store, and they would do something like that and rain would stop, it's very easy to visualize and see how within a couple of seasons life would cease. If without rain, life can't grow from the earth, there would be impact on every aspect of our lives and on our survival. And I think, to me, tempering with menstruation and disabling that part of ourselves is similar to trying to stop the rain. It may not be convenient if you're thinking of it as a hassle, but I'm inviting you to think of it as a gift. I'm inviting you to think of it as a time every month when you can access intuition, when you can access guidance, when you can really go into a deeper level of yourself that you don't have access to. And if you cut yourself from that, then it's like cutting yourself from the nourishment of the rain to the earth. It is implying that you are not accepting the whole of who you are. You're not accepting the whole cycle. You're amputating a part of it. It's amputation. You're taking a part of you and cutting it off. It always is going to impact the whole.
And in my experience with the women that I have worked with and known, it usually creates an emotional impact. Like you start to see that, and they start becoming distressed, depressed, and anxiety and all of these things kick in when we are running away and relying on pills to deal with our female body.
Because something is missing. We've taken something away and something is missing, and we may not even know what it is, but then we become very emotional about the lack of. Sometimes women don't even know what is the lack, but they're feeling it.
And a lot of women also do not look forward to this time because of the pain and the discomfort. And I'd like you to speak a little bit about that. The pain of menstruation.
So in my experience, the pain is not a requirement. It
Yes.
doesn't have to happen. And what I see the pain as being is an alarm clock that brings our awareness to wake up to the fact that we need to stop, that we need to take time off, that we are moving against ourselves, that there is a rhythm of our body of expansion, contraction for us to push through that, continuing to work, continuing to tend to all of our chores and do everything as if it's a regular day. We are in a clash with our own rhythm of our body and our psyche and our emotional life. So the pain is there for a reason. It's like tugging at our skirt to say, hey, wake up. It's time to stop. It's time to go inward. It's time to do something different. It's like the red light in your car that shows you that your oil is low or your gas is low. So imagine smashing that light because you don't want red light in front of you. Well, taking pills is like smashing that warning light. It is there to invite you to stop. So rather than taking pills and medications and suppressing the messenger, listening to that messenger, your body, that is saying something here to you, that pain is there in order to invite you to take time. And the more we ignore it, the louder it shouts. Our body, our wise, wise body. If we ignore it, the pain would be a notch higher and a volume louder. And if we listen, my experience is with myself for years, I had no more pain and no more emotional upheaval when I started honoring my cycle. And with women that I worked with, their symptoms reduced to nothing within very few short months of starting to honor their cycle, to live their expansion, contraction, and to not ignore the body and its messages and to not medicate it, but to honor it. So the pain then disappears and you don't have to have it.
It's really interesting, and I have experienced this through your work as well. Because when I came across your teaching many years ago, and you said exactly the same thing, that the pain is not necessary, and I was shocked. Like, what do you mean? Not necessary. Like everybody's having it, and it's pretty much also a symptom in the language of the medical science. Like it's a
Yes.
symptom, and it's a disease actually that every woman have to go through. And I was really shocked. Like, what do you mean when she's saying it's not necessary? And I remember doing the work that you suggested, and I started journaling and my emotions, and a lot of emotional pain came out through my journaling during that time. And the more I was journaling throughout my cycles, my physical pain reduced. So the more I could bring out, and now these days I really look forward to my periods because I know this is my time. I take it as like a party, but I'm not in a party mode, but I know the food that I'll be cooking for myself, to nourish myself. I know that I have explained the process to my husband, like this is what it's going to be on a busy day, even in the evening. If it is that I light a red candle and I journal, and sometimes the best ideas for my business come during that time when I'm journaling, and it's such a healing process, and I really look forward to it. And when I say this to women, they're like, "What? Are you serious?" But that's
Yeah.
possible, as you say, it's possible.
Absolutely possible, and it becomes familiar, and we become accustomed to traveling our lives in this cyclical way, and we welcome the opportunity to stop and to go inward and to be more contemplative and quieter and enjoy the levels of delving within ourselves as we enjoy the outward, because we live in a culture that's only rewarding and accepting and encouraging the outward going, go, 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 the light field existence. We need to also honor the delving into the dark. Here is Yemaya again, to the depths. In the depths of the water, in the depths of the ocean, it's not lit. It is dark, and sometimes it's in the dark that you find the treasures.
Yeah. What I also noticed and witnessed for myself was that I was actually running away from a lot of my personal emotions, like a lot of emotions and feelings that I was not ready to face. And all of that
Yes.
surfaced during my menstruation, in those times. And a lot of us women are running away, actually, like scared to really face that darkness, as you say, because it's scary.
Well, when we are afraid to face it, it's gonna stay there forever until we face it. So we're just postponing and building up the darkness. Whereas if we are in the habit of continually meeting it and releasing, there is no build up. And the scariness, the fear is much greater than the actuality. You look at it in the eye, you release it, and you're ready for the next cycle. So it's like not taking the garbage out from your house. If there is residues of things that didn't serve you during the month, things that you might have done differently, that didn't work for you, emotions that have built up, it's like putting things in the garbage can at home. So if you take it out every week, then you don't have any build-up. But imagine not doing it for years. You would be living.
Yeah. Stinking.
Yeah. So really the fear is sabotaging us from meeting the build up and cleansing it and releasing it and not having to deal with it anymore. And then each month there is a very little build up, and the meeting of it is very easy when it becomes a rhythm or a pattern in your life.
Yeah. So I remember what you mentioned that you're going to take us through an experience here. I'm really looking forward to what you've got to share with us.
So what I wanted to invite you all to do is to contemplate the time of your first blood. In my experience and in my belief, the time of menarche, the time of our first blood, is the bud that opens up to our womanhood. This is when we are born from girl to young woman. And for most of us, it's fraught with negativity on many levels and in many ways. So I wanted to invite, I would like to share with you a kernel from my story, and I would like to invite you to share a kernel from yours, and to invite our sisters around the world to share the first blood story that you had with at least one other sister. Because it's so liberating. This story is in the dark and not being shared for so many women around the world. And it's so liberating to share it and to see how similar our feelings are with women anywhere in the world. So I would like to share the kernel that for me was the most painful, was the fact that my mom explained to me over and over again on the day of my first blood, how much I need to wash and clean and take the pad and wrap it in newspaper and not put it in the trash can at home, take it outside. So what it gave me as a message is that my blood was dirty. She never used the word dirty, but she emphasized cleanliness so much that the only conclusion I could come to, the only message I could receive from that, is that my blood was dirty. And for all of my teens and early 20s, I held that belief that I then released, thank goodness. But this was the most damaging thing for me, that I came to realize that I was carrying with me for no good reason, that it's a complete fallacy, and that I released it through the work that I do.
Yeah, and I'm nodding my head because yes, I know because I have also experienced a really similar thing. When on my first day of my periods, I was the last one in my class to have, so I was really waiting, go and talk to the girls, like, I haven't had my periods yet. And I went and told my mom, and she took me, to her room, and she showed me, like, this is the sanitary pad, this is how you use, and the emphasis was again, like, you have to clean and wash, and exactly, like, wrap it in the newspaper and throw it in the bin that is outside the house, like exactly the same thing. Like, can you imagine?
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, not to throw it in the bin inside the house. So me and my mom will go in the night time after 9:30 p.m. Like, everyone is asleep, the streets are empty, and across our house was this communal bin. So we will go there every night, and she'll take me there and I will throw it there. So again, I felt, and my brother started to notice, like, something is happening, like, these ladies are up to something. He was a younger brother. He got really curious, and he caught my mom with a sanitary pad, she was giving it to me, and he caught her in that moment, and he asked, like, Mom, what did you give to the sister? And, that was like a sanitary, like, I see it on TV. What is it? And my mom said, because she's wounded, so she needs that. And I think she just came up with something, So, and that sat with me as well. First of all, that it's something really dirty happening. It's all toxins, and it's really dirty and smelly and all of that. And there's something wrong, like, I'm wounded, and I have to go through it. It's like a punishment, a curse that a girl gets for the rest of her life, till the times. And interestingly, my brother, next day, he went out to play, and he fell and he wounded his knee. So he went and asked my mom, like, Mom, can I have one too? Because I'm wounded on my knee. And it was so embarrassing for all of us. Like, oh my God. Yeah.
That is a painful, painful story. And I know that we often tell those stories laughing, but it's painful.
At that time, yeah, we carry it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really would like to encourage you, sisters, anywhere you are, to tell the first blood story for at least one sister, one woman, or to a few of them, because that's where the healing begins. It begins with breaking the silence that is surrounding the story of our first blood and starting to make menstruation something that is not a taboo, that we can speak about. It's your story. And your story resonates with so many other women's stories, and her stories, anyone that you invite to share with you, will resonate with you. So this is what I'd like to invite you as the first step to healing your relationship with your blood, is to share the story of your first blood.
Yeah, and when this video is out, it will be on my Facebook group as well, and I'm going to start encouraging women to share the stories, and I'm going to report back to you as well, if you would be interested, because I think
Sure.
it's a really interesting way of connecting with this taboo subject, and also the wound. It's a wound inside of ourselves as women that we've been carrying for not being seen in our reverence. The process itself is a spiritual process.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's a process of becoming aware that there is more than is visible to the eye. And we're missing a huge opportunity if we're not willing to look underneath what's visible.
It's just so relaxing to even, be heard, share your story and be heard.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, DeAnna, tell us about your free gift. You're sharing a beautiful resource with the women here.
So a gift that I would like to offer you is a red tent activation meditation, one of the most healing tools that I find work for me and for women all over, is to go inward and explore a shamanic journey. So this is an audio file that I'm gifting you, a meditation of awakening your cellular memories, awakening the memories that are locked in your blood and bone around the remembrance of how we all in ancient times in indigenous cultures sat in red tents and were part of villages and tribes that we all have ancestry in, regardless of where we live now, in cultures that have revered women as cyclical being, as lunar being, in cultures that welcomed girls into womanhood with celebrations and awe and honor. And we remember that on a cellular level. And that's why I believe the Red Tent book by Anita Diamond became such a bestseller, because women resonated with that memory on some deep level. So my offer to you is a meditation, an audio file where you will take time off yourself, you will turn everything off, your phone and your computer and the lights, and just go in to awaken your cellular memories of being a woman that is connected with her cyclicity in the red tent. So I offer you this journey and invite you to enjoy.
Yeah, and I will have the link underneath our video so that women can really make use of it. And I personally have heard that meditation a couple of times as well in the past, and I must highly recommend that. So thank you so much, DeAnna, for your time here and your presence and sharing your wisdom and heaps of experience in dealing with this work and doing this work. Thank you so much.
It is my pleasure, Danita. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for creating this for women, a space where they can explore and empower themselves. So many blessings.
Thank you. And one last question that I'm asking every single teacher in this online temple is, in a line or two, what does rising feminine mean to you in this moment in life?
I would say the rising feminine means bringing balance to humanity. That there is a way in which, if we're looking at the sun and the moon, us as women being lunar, beings, expanding and contracting, and men being solar, like a ray of light that can pierce through illusion and bring light to dark places in its positive form. We all have shadows, but in its positive form. The solar energy has been prevailing for many generations, for over 2 millennia. So for the feminine to rise is, in my mind, a bringing of a balance between the masculine and the feminine, between the lunar and the solar, between linearity and cyclicity. And we need both. And I think that women are rising in order to bring this missing piece into the collective human psyche.
Yes, yes. Thank you. It feels really deep in this space, in this body as well of every single woman. They can feel this rising. You know, maybe they cannot put words to it, but they can feel.
Yes, yes. And it takes all of us to rise. And together, our rising is really changing the mass consciousness. And none of us is too small just by being one, because there is always the one that tips the balance.
Yes. Thank you so much, DeAnna, for your time and your presence. I really honor and appreciate that.
My pleasure. Blessing.